Hello YouTube, what's up? It's me, Maxter, back with episode 10 of Behind the Mod. For this episode, we have aidancbrady, the author of Mekanism, DefenseTech, and just Minecraft modder extraordinaire joining us. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So, before we begin, I'd just like to ask you, what got you into Minecraft modding, and where did Mekanism play into that?
It was an old friend of mine, so really good friends with him now, and he got into the game back in I want to say 2011. This was when beta 1.7.3 was still the top of the game, and he got me into it with the mod single player commands. I kind of didn't really have any experience with vanilla Minecraft when I got started anyway, and I played around with that for a while and fell in love with the game. And a bit after that, I realized that I could make my own mods. And I made a mod a little bit after that called Obsidian Ingots that basically brought in obsidian armor and tools to the game. Oh my gosh, there were like 50 other mods that added exactly that. But I thought it'd be a fun project. And I kind of just started expanding it from there. And by the next year, Obsidian Ingots had machines and other things that really did not fit the theme of the title. So another developer, Kaklavia, who you might know, he made the ICBM mods and stuff, Universal Electricity. He came up with the name Mechanism, and Mechanism stuck. So we started expanding off of that and had it in electricity and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's just been, honestly, this year is going to be the fifth year. So it's been a lot of fun and it's been a lot of work, but I enjoy it all. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And with Mechanism, I think that it used to be in Volts. It was a big universal electricity kind of flagship mod. Is it was the big, I guess, UE tech mod, and then
Right.
you kind of switched it as universal electricity died out to its own thing. So what was that like?
Well, when I integrated with Universal Electricity, I wasn't really thrilled on incorporating everything into the power system, and the UE team was trying to convince me to basically refactor the mod to be a completely Universal Electricity based mod. But I had a feeling that the system would kind of die out because it fits into that paradox of adding a universal power system that's really just one more power system. And so I didn't really ever expand too much into the universal electricity environment. I just kind of integrated with their libraries and added like kind of side integration with that so that it worked well, but it wasn't actually based off of it. So when the library started to become deprecated and people didn't really pay attention to UE anymore, it was really just a matter of deleting a couple compatibility layers. And because I still had my core system from the very beginning that I used before I even was a part of universal electricity, and I just stuck with that.
Yeah, Mechanism is great because it's kind of an independent tech mod in that it's not dependent. It's not like IC2 or Buildcraft where it switched from its own system. It's been it's been with universal electricity. It's been with RF. It can do a lot.
Right, yeah.
So over the last few years, because you said it's been like a long time you've been modding, what do you think some of the biggest evolutions you've made in mod design are with Mechanism? Like specifically in areas like balance, where some people have called, I guess, Mechanism overpowered at some points.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, for me, modding was never really as much of making the perfect mod as it was just a fun hobby where I could add stuff in. And a couple friends and I used to host a server, and actually, we're going to start one up again this summer at some point. But we used to just play around and see what kind of cool things we can make because I love just the idea of a tech mod that added all that kind of cool stuff. So when I add features, and this especially was before when I didn't really pay any attention to balance, I just added what I thought would be fun and what people would enjoy playing with, what I would enjoy playing with, honestly. So it was really just this past year that, or really 2 years ago, that I started getting into like making sure that the mod balances well and plays well with other mods. Like version 9 has been pretty stressful because I added a lot of new content, and because of that, I've had to pay really strict attention to what balance I had where. Like the turbines and boilers, for example, I had to plan out exactly how I'd manage that, and I didn't like the idea of free energy gain. So basically, even though everything is configurable, it is basically set in to calculate off your values that you put in the configuration the best way to idealize the boiler to turbine energy output. So you can't get one, I don't know, like you can say surplus power by running the system. You have to like hook it up to a reactor, for example, to translate that steam into power. You can't like have an infinite power generation process by producing water, funneling it in through a boiler and then a turbine. So all that was definitely like I that took me a while to figure out how I wanted to manage that. But aside from that, I mean, a lot of it is still just me coming with ideas that I want to do. And also recently, I've been adding Reddit posts once a year talking about the coming release and asking people for advice. And the past two times, that's actually been a big help to me coming up with ideas.
Yeah, Mechanism V9 was a huge release for Mechanism, and that happened very recently. And you made a lot of big changes to the way the mod works, like you mentioned. What do you think? What was it like to kind of redesign your mod from a mechanical perspective while also letting Cyanide X handle a lot of the textures redesign?
Right, yeah. I'd actually say that at least a third of my time was spent working with the assets too that Cyanide X was working on because half of that process, well, I wouldn't say half because he put so much work into that, but a lot of the process of refactoring a mod's looks is on the code side. So, like, I had to develop some libraries that would help me manage all the textures that he was working with, and for all the models he added in, I had to design Mechanism to play right with them and make sure that they rendered right in the game. So that took up a lot of my time managing the assets and getting the new assets translated in. And so I'd say that along with the upgrades to the core mechanism libraries, like working with multi blocks and stuff, took a lot of my time because I don't know if you mess around with it, but one of the new things added was a structural glass, which is basically glass that works with all multi blocks in the game. Well, at least in the mechanism game, and that did take a good bit of time, like working with the internals. But also because of the disastrous changes of version 8 that caused a lot of people to corrupt their world when they updated, I was also focusing on these core updates without actually changing the experience of the player when transitioning from version 8 to version 9. So basically, it's more of a mature release that allowed people to easily transition while getting still getting access to all the cool new features.
Yeah, and from a broad perspective, I think V9 kind of brings Mechanism into its own, especially with the texture redesign and all the new way it works, basically. In addition to the new features. So, do you think it's kind of, I guess, coming of age for Mechanism, or more of a, I guess, evolution?
I would say more of a coming of age because while I mean with the texture changes you could be seeing as an evolution, I mean everything is really still the same in terms of the gameplay. There's a bit more balance, but it's still mechanism underneath. And I think that what version 9 really needed was just something that kind of brought everything together. And I think the textures actually really helped with that because it kind of gave the mod its own little unique look with the dark high-tech looking machines. And because before it was really just I had probably about 6 different artists work in that. Some of them were mine, which were pretty awful, and some of them were other artists who were great, but just the different styles that all the different artists used, including me, kind of made it look a bit cluttered, in my opinion. I know some people are actually working on a an original texture pack that brings back the old textures because there's always people who don't like the new stuff, but I play with the new textures and I love them. So yeah, I guess that's what I'd say there.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about Mechanism always has just been like the models and stuff. Like looking at stuff like the windmills, it just looks so cool compared to other mods, even if the textures weren't designed by Cyanide X, and even after they have, I like them both ways. Some people don't like the new textures, but they can do their own thing, and that's cool. But I guess have you always approached Mechanism aesthetically as kind of trying to make it unique even before V9?
You know, I'd have to say no. I didn't really pay much attention to the textures. Well, I take that back. At least until version, I'd say Mechanism 7 is when I started actually paying attention to kind of a consolidated texture base. I had an artist who probably kind of like was the trailblazer for the really cool Mechanism textures, Cheap Shot, who was actually part of the Technic team, and he made the jetpack and the atomic disassembler and other textures, which are kind of iconic now in Mechanism. And so ever since then, I kind of started trying to consolidate textures, make them look high tech, and kind of fit the mechanism theme that I dreamed about. So, um, yeah, I mean, and with version 9, with everything kind of put together, it's kind of where I've wanted to be for a long time. And now that I'm going in college and probably not going to have as much free time, it's nice to have this strong baseline of the mod that I can work with whenever I have free time.
Yeah, it's a really strong foundation, and with Mechanism V9, not just mechanically and visually, but you've also made some policy changes, specifically with regards to CurseForge. You've made the decision to make it available on that, starting with version 9. So, what has that been like, and what made you decide to adopt Curse?
Right. Yeah. Well, I'd stuck with Half-Life for since I guess 5 years ago when I started making obsidian ingots, and it's nice to see that kind of side stream of revenue coming in. But to be honest, it's not even that much. And these days, apparently, I've heard reports that AdFly is infested with malware. So I have a feeling that it's probably in everyone's best interest to transition to CurseForge, especially since it's pretty much accepted by everyone now. There was some debate in the beginning, but it seems like that's died out and everyone's on Curse. So I figure that what I'm going to do is once I get the 1.9 port out, I will release that alongside a 1.7.10 build on Curse. And I'll keep the links up on my website. But for Curse, it'll also be like another way that you can access the latest recommended builds. So I figured just working with both, that'll allow mod pack developers a lot more flexibility to not have to add the third-party mods, because I figured that's pretty stressful.
Yeah, I think the advantage of Curse is just the user experience. For most people, seems to be a lot better than stuff like AdFly. Even some people, don't like Curse for licensing reasons or whatever. But I think it's one of those directions the community is heading in that hopefully is for the better, just because it's easier for people to get to grips with and add to their pack, or just easily install a Mechanism or whatever mod.
Yeah, right.
And you like you mentioned, you're going to be bringing Mechanism version 9 to 1.9.4 soon. And so what's it been like developing and planning for two like really internally different versions of the game?
God, it's been a mess. I started on 1.8 about a week and a half before I left on vacation. And actually, no, that's a lie. It was about 2.5 weeks. And I put it easily in 6 hours a day at night, just getting that transition to the new 1.8 libraries. Because what I did is I staggered not from 1.7.10 to 1.9, but also with 1.8 in the middle, so I wouldn't have to have as many direct changes, and I could utilize the single transition review help online, which actually didn't end up even using much of. A lot of it was just messing around with the code to see what worked and what didn't. But I'd say that for me, the rendering stuff took about 80% of my time, and it was just like changing everything where Mechanism uses these Mechanism, I mean the Minecraft based model renderer stuff like they do for entities from my tile entities. It just took forever to get all that transition. So it's done now for 1.8, and I've also already finished the 1.9 port. That was much easier, although still a good bit of work on my end. But I'd say I probably put about 80, 90 hours into getting that stuff ported over in the past few weeks, and my vacation halted that, which I kind of needed. I needed that break. But now that I'm back in, I'm pretty sure we'll see some kind of beta 1.9 release in the next week, and after that, I'd say we'll have a full release in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Awesome. And with Mojang releasing 1.10 a few days ago, what do you think of the faster pace that Minecraft updates are taking now? And do you predict that it's going to be more difficult to adapt to that? Or do you think from now on, at least updates internally, it'll be easier to update your mod because there won't be as many changes?
Right, yeah. My mistake was waiting 2 years to actually update to the latest Minecraft release, so that's kind of where all my struggles came in. And also, 1.8 was just a beef, whatever. It was such a massive update that I don't even. Uh, I really, if there's another update like that, I'm probably not going to have the time to update the entirety of Mechanism to the latest version. And even 1.8, I had help with my co-developer. So, yeah, I figure that these slower releases will let me update to them easier, but it'll definitely be stressful to have to always put in that time to keep them updated. So I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in being one of the modders who are later to post 1.7 because it's been such a pain for many to go from those versions technically. But it
Right.
seems like we're finally gaining momentum now in a positive direction, so that's good. And another mod that was also really iconic in Vaults, ICVM, probably the flagship mod of Vaults, has kind of been reborn by you as DefenseTech. What has that been like?
Right, yeah, that's been a lot of fun, and I've been wanting to do this for a while too. I wanted to get it updated for 1.7.10, like about right as soon as Hucklavia said that he would not be able to have the time to update it. And I know that there's been some other works, some other developers are working on porting it. Specifically, I know Dark Artsman and his, I forget what they're called. I think he must have been calling it Volts, the Volts team. They're working on something. But the thing is that he is working on a classic port, but he's putting most of his priority into not really as much a port, but a recreation of the original mod that I figure will take a while, and also the community is going to take a while to latch onto that as their new favorite. So I kind of, in my spare time, put together a refactoring of the mod. The internals are mostly the same, but it's been restructured in a way that puts it into my libraries that Mechanism uses, which is why it's dependent on that. It took me a while to get everything put together, but I was super happy to get that release out. Seems like people are really liking it too. So I'm hoping to have a complete asset overhaul pretty soon. I don't know if you've seen, but the tier 1 launchers and missiles and stuff are looking awesome thanks to some work by a guy named Prototype Data that I've been working with. And so I really want to get that ported up to the latest version soon. And once I do, I really want to treat it as one of my top mods that I work on alongside Mechanism, even though those are the only two really.
Awesome, because people love missiles. And I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, and talking more generally, I think over the last year, you worked with Microsoft a lot on lots of Minecraft related stuff, both modding and not modding related. What was that experience like overall?
Right, yeah. Well, it was sudden. It was an email that I got in March from one of the Microsoft executives asking me to come out for the build conference. I don't know if you saw that, but I demoed Mechanism Source and some other stuff in their new Java extension to Visual Studio. And I have to admit, at this point, I still don't use Visual Studio because I have a Mac and I don't have any kind of boot camp partition with Windows anymore since my computer got broken. But it was really fun to work with them, and it was kind of shocking to me because I've been a longtime Apple user, but going on their campus and seeing everything and comparing it to what the other interns were talking about in terms of the Apple environment, it seems like Microsoft is a great place to work. And I've actually got myself set up for another internship this coming summer, which will be with college benefits, which I'm pretty excited about. But they're an awesome company, and I know a lot of people hate them, but I respect them a lot more after actually seeing what goes on there in Redmond. So I figured that I'm going to continue working with them at least until I find a better opportunity. And I'm not working with them directly right now, but I still have attachments to the company, like I said. So yeah, overall, just a great experience.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. Microsoft's a really different company now from what they were a few years ago too. Just if you look on, I bet on the campus, there were probably lots of people with MacBooks too. Um, but the Minecraft related stuff, well, I guess what was it like coming from the homebrew Minecraft modded community to kind of seeing this big corporate um endorsement of that because Microsoft now owns Mojang. What was it
Right.
like to experience that?
Well, it took me a while to understand how everything worked there in terms of the corporate structure. But what I found out is that they have a team there that works on Minecraft stuff there in Redmond. And I'm pretty sure that that Redmond team is what actually makes the Microsoft, they made the Windows 10 version of Minecraft as well as the iOS app. And you mentioned that how you expected that people would be having MacBooks over there. What's so funny is that the majority of the executives that I talked with were on iPhones. They had Macs, they had Apple Watches, they had everything. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty funny. But no, yeah, it's the corporate structure is interesting because I get the feeling that Mojang has still not totally accepted the fact that they're owned by Microsoft, and there was a lot of debate over there about like the the team over there in Sweden not really wanting to do what the Microsoft community was wanting to do, and they actually were giving the team in Sweden a lot of leverage. Like the actual Microsoft company does not have much power over what they do, at least from the way they have it set up now. Which is why you haven't really seen much Microsoft stuff done to Minecraft other than just general publicity and getting it more accepted in the gaming community. But in terms of the Minecraft core game, Microsoft has really nothing to do with that because it's still Mojang and all their team members based in Sweden that actually do all the work on that. I mean, you see the Minecraft Pocket Edition coming along well, but those are really just features that are being implemented in a different programming language from the original Minecraft game. But working with that kind of company, like of that size, and seeing what goes on was, I mean, it's enlightening. Like it would be for anyone just to see how much work goes into the tiniest things. It was remarkable, and I had a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is you mentioned the Java version and I guess the new C version of Minecraft that you're seeing on Windows 10, iOS, Android, the new Minecraft. What do you think is going to happen in the next few years with regards to, I guess, how we transition from the legacy PC, whatever Minecraft that people play now to the Pocketed Edition and Windows 10 code base that is the new modern one, I guess?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, from my standpoint, I hope it doesn't really become too much Windows because I'm on a Mac and I still want to be able to play. But I honestly don't see a complete transition of all the Java code to see anytime soon because, especially with what they've done in 1.8 and 1.9 in terms of the massive code changes, I don't really see it making sense for them to do all that just to give it all up and switch over to the C stuff. So I have a feeling that Microsoft is going to generally put a lot of their work into this Windows 10 port just to see what happens. But it feels kind of weird because it's almost like Microsoft is competing with a company they own on the actual official Minecraft game. So I'm curious where they'll take it. I'm hoping that it's not going to be in a direction that takes away all the power from Sweden, but I honestly don't see that happening. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what'll end up happening.
Yeah, it is really weird to kind of see that with stuff like Minecraft. Like Microsoft is such a more, I guess, open company in terms of hardware. Like so I don't doubt that if they did release if they do really go follow the Windows 10 bandwagon, they will release it on OS 10, Mac, and all that stuff as well. But it's interesting because I think as more and more people play the Pocket Edition or console versions, whatever, that more and more people, like, it might even be more than the PC version now, are playing that version now. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that's handled, and also if that has anything to do with the modding API on either version, whether it be the
Right.
Pocket Edition one, the new one, or the Java one that we all know and love.
A modding API would be cool for the Windows version because I'm pretty sure they'd also, considering it's the same code base, work that into the Pocket Edition so that we'd be able to have some kind of cross platform compatibility with the Minecraft mods that people download. But the thing is that C is not that easy of a language to decompile, so unless Minecraft does have some kind of official API that we can work with, which they've been talking about, since Notch was in charge, but I mean, it's been what 3-4 years since that, and we still haven't really seen much of anything other than a bit of resource pack support out of 1.8 and 1.9. So, I mean, assuming that Microsoft does pull something together with the modding API on their version of Minecraft, I mean, I'm sure we'll see some kind of slow trickling of support for modders into that community. But I have a feeling that this PC code base we have with Java is not going to be changing anytime soon with all the work that's been put into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, the modding community has historically, I mean, obviously been centered around the Java versions. That's the original Minecraft. And even if it's not perfect, the code base has gotten a lot better. So I really do look forward to hopefully that being supported alongside whatever Microsoft and company decide to do with Minecraft as well.
Right.
But going back to, I guess, Minecraft, not Microsoft Minecraft. What does the future hold for Mechanism and your other Minecraft related projects?
Well, in the near future, like I said, I'd love to get out some kind of release for 1.9 and possibly 1.10. We'll have to look into that. But gosh, let's see. For Defense Tech, that's another thing. I want to get that updated. After that, it's really going to be a matter of how much time I have. I have some ideas for the future mechanism. There's a lot of feature requests that are actually open on GitHub right now. And same for Defense Tech. Gosh, you go on that and look at the issues, and about 80% of it is feature suggestions for people that were once a part of the Volts community or UE community that want to get involved and have ideas for the future of the mod. So a lot of it's going to be down to how much time I have. Like I said, assuming I do have time, I would love to add in some more kind of like uh, I'd say compatibility, but that might be the wrong word. Some more built-in integration with Defense Tech and Mechanism so that you can see the two fit together more nicely. I'd love to add in some way to make antimatter stuff so that it actually makes sense to make the antimatter weapons and defense tech. And I'd also love to add in nuclear fission power because we have fusion, but it's like when we skipped a major part of the nuclear energy community. So yeah, just some ideas for the future, and a lot of it's going to be polishing too. So we'll see, I guess. Mechanism version 10. I mean, it's a daunting name, so I might have to add in some special stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah, for me as someone who's like watched Mechanism just grow all over the years, it's kind of nice to see it really come into its own as a really cool mod. It's all, like, that's really feature complete, and also this integration with defense tech. I think hopefully in the future, I guess we'll see more and more mod packs adopting that. Maybe the next Tekkit or FTB or whatever, because it's a really cool mod now.
Right, yeah. Well, thanks a bunch.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on today to be interviewed. And I guess do you have any, I guess, closing thoughts?
Of course, yeah. And I mean, closing thoughts. One thing I do want to say, while I was over there working in Microsoft, I spent about a week of my time putting together a course for people getting interested in modding. And it's pretty basic. It was based in 1.7.10, but it basically went over the basics and what you have to do. And I made a little demo repository, which is available on GitHub, and you can link that from my website, that basically explains what the core parts of a mod are and how to get started. So if anyone wants to get started on something like this on a Minecraft project and have questions, I mean, my email address is on my website for anyone to write me to. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll be happy to walk you through the basics.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's, I mean, one of the things we really need in the Minecraft community is more documentation and help with making mods, because it's always good to have more and more um cooks in the Minecraft community, because you always see cool new stuff, and it's awesome to have for people to have a resource to learn about that.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Really cool chat. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next episode. Goodbye.